Everybody, welcome back to Timeout with Tackle What's Next. It has been a while. On this show, we speak to athletes and executives about how sport has made a difference and changed the course of their lives and the lessons they've learned in life outside of the game. Ruiz. I am the founder and CEO of Tackle What's Next, where we work to change the narrative around life after the game. So thanks for taking a time out with us tonight. Tonight we're talking to Seby Balan. Seby is an entrepreneur, a podcast host. He's a first-generation immigrant from Haiti, and he came to the U.S. at 6 years old. He grew up in Apopka, Florida, just outside Orlando, and from a young age he was infatuated with sports, but also music and acting. He took music and acting really seriously in high school on top of playing football, and he ended up following that passion to graduate from the University of Central Florida with a double major in journalism and broadcasting, as well as media management. And he also found time to play intramural basketball on campus as well. And now he is the creator and runs Seby Podcast Media. He started that in 2016. And his goal there is to have a sports, culture, and entertainment all come together. The platform is really designed to create a place for fans to listen, but also an outlet to share thoughts and engage outside of just mainstream sports media. And the platform also gives a stage for athletes and coaches to feel and share their stories, feel their organic selves, and kind of talk about their lives outside of sports, which is right up our alley. So I'm really excited to have Seby here to talk to us tonight. I'm going to bring him up on the screen here, and we'll get in. There he is. How's it going?
I am doing well. Thank you. Thank you. I heard the whole spiel and the whole presentation. I'm flattered.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining. I'm so glad we got connected. And full disclosure, Seby and I connected through the team at last night's game, and he had me on his podcast, which is awesome. So we're definitely going to link to that so people can go check it out. But so excited to return the favor and have you on the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm excited. I'm excited. I love what you guys are doing over here.
Well,
It's a
yeah,
pleasure. Excited for sure.
absolutely. Likewise, likewise. Let's start from I talked a little bit in the intro around you playing basketball, football. Like, what was your first sports experience? Do you remember the first sport you played? And then how did you decide high school football, college basketball? Like, how did you make those decisions in terms of keeping up with different sports?
Honestly, it just I don't really think there's an answer for that. So basically, as a young age, I was very mischievous. I always used to get into trouble and stuff, and like um, sports and music was always like an avenue where I could just kind of escape and just kind of being able to um, just be who I am as a person. That was kind of like my sacred home, and they correlate together hand in hand. But it was just more so of like it was just kind of like my calling card, and then ever since, since a young age, my parents started putting balls in my hands. They started putting, basketballs, baseball, soccer balls. Being a first generation immigrant from Haiti, that was a big thing. Or like our
Mm-hmm.
whole, heritage is soccer based. So that's
Yeah.
pretty much how that came upon. And then after that, everything else is just an afterthought. So.
Yeah, no, I love it. And you ended up playing high school football. What impact do you feel like that made on your life and just sports in general? You talked about it being a place where you could be yourself, but give me a little snapshot of like how you feel like playing sports has impacted who you are today.
Yeah, it definitely makes a big difference. So being somebody that actually like played, you get to see the game from a player's perspective, but you also get to see it from an analyst perspective, right? So
Mm,
like being in the trenches and being in that huddle and being like, on the court and being able to be with your team, and you kind of take away all the X's and O's, you kind of know like just from an eye test and being there with the players how it feels to just put everything aside. So I think that there's something to be said about being there and actually playing rather than just
mm.
like being a coach and then you're working your way up being an assistant, being from the staff, and then working up. So it's basically different perspectives, I think, and it kind of has you thinking like, okay, well, that's why I've always thought that player coaches relate well with players, just because of the fact that they've
Hmm.
been through the trenches, they've been through, you know, workouts and trainings and endless, you know, suicides or whatever the case may be. So um, that's my stance on that.
Yeah, I love it. It sounds like it's made you more, I guess, engaging kind of media personality when it comes to sports, being that you experienced it, you know what to ask, you know kind of how it feels, and it's not like, you're kind of going in deeper than necessarily like an analyst would, where, you're like, hey, I know what it's like to be there. So I love that. Now, what about like you as a person? Have you feel like sports has taught you any lessons or any kind of valuable skills? Like, how do you feel like sport in general has impacted you, as Seby, as a friend, as a family member?
Absolutely. You know, I think that sports, you learn a lot of lessons along the way. You know, you learn what determination is, you learn discipline, right? Whether that's, you know, you have commitments to being in workouts, you have commitments being there for your teammates, right? Like if your teammates get into some fight, you know, you got to be the first one to jump in, you know. So you learn what it takes to go above and beyond. You learn sportsmanship. That's a big thing. So I
Hmm.
like there's a lot of skill sets and life skills that you can take from playing sports or being in the sports industry in general that you can, you know, acquire to that in life. And you know, success always comes with failure, right? You know, Michael
Yeah.
Jordan has a he has a famous quote. He says that, you know, I can't accept quitters, but I can accept failure. Because when you fail, you don't fail, you fail forward, right? And so I think sports teaches you a lot of life lessons along the way. And for myself, particularly, there's been a lot of things that, you know, high and lows and things like that. And so I think that that is definitely a few things that I take personally for myself that's helped me to be the person I am today.
Yeah, I love it. I think it resonates clearly with some of the folks here. Someone said it equates to professionalism, and I think it definitely is a whole proving ground, almost in a way, of how to be a professional in any industry, which is
No,
great. So now I want to know too. How did you go about moving from? I know you were balancing sport and music and acting and all these different things. How did you go about kind of transitioning into that next chapter? So from high school football to college, was there a realization that, hey, this is as far as I'm going to take my athletic career? Was there a dawning of like, okay, this is over now? And what was that process like?
Well, you know, first and foremost, you know, I reached a growth spurt. So, you know, I was like, okay, well, I'm not 6'4", you know, I'm 50, so most likely I'm not going to be a fullback or a
There you
line.
go. Yeah.
I'm not able to be, you know, 6'6". So that's firsthand too. And then secondly, it's just that um, I found that for me, you know, where I got my passion from is like analytics and being able to talk about it, right? I used to be at church, and a lot of my friends used to make fun of me. They used to be like, "Oh, you ESPN, like how you know so much stats and how you know so much this and that." I'm like, it's not that hard. I'm, you know, like I watch the games, I watch film, and I'm a student of the game. So I go back and I watch tape and I break it down, and you know, things like that just started capturing my attention. And then after that, I was just like, okay, well, since everybody's saying that I should start a podcast or talk about it, like take it seriously. That's what I just did. I started taking it seriously. So, um, and while actually I started that while I was in my third or fourth year of college, actually. And then
Okay.
ever since, you know, the first couple years, as you know, in business, like it's trial and error. You know, most successful business owners, they fail after their first 18 months. And so there was a trial period, and it wasn't until I want to say 2018 and 2019 we actually started to boom as a business. We worked with a lot of marketing agencies. We started structuring the company of Seby Podcast itself, how it needs to be, and then we're at where we are now, where you know we have three elements in our platform. So we have a YouTube segment where we interview athletes and head coaches. We have a weekly podcast that we do every week that is aired on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. And then, of course, I have a team of journalists that write articles, whether it's scandals like, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, or if it's news or something. We write about, we collaborate with last night's game when it comes to tailgates and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We have correspondents in the West Coast in Seattle that cover West Coast games. We have correspondents here in the East Coast in the tri-state areas in New York that cover East Coast games. So all of this, it took a lot of work, it took a lot of sacrifices, a lot of praying for sure. And I've just seen it throughout the years. My blessings started to come to fruition, and that's where we're at right now.
I love it. My other question on that, because it sounds like you've really grown a lot and you always learn when you create. Like you said earlier, you fail forward, and everything that doesn't work is a proving ground or kind of the basis for the next thing that's going to work. But what's your biggest goal or message with the podcast, the different channels, the YouTube? What is your goal with Seby Podcast Media? Like, what do you hope that it does for other people? What are you hoping that it becomes as you continue to grow it?
So our unique we want to come music and also sports together, because if you really think about it, they're all under the umbrella of entertainment, right? And so we're never going to take down Disney like ESPN or Bleacher Report or something like that. But our goal is we want to be par with them. Exactly. Not yet. But our goal is we want to be up to par with them, and we want to have some like an open forum and a safe hub where people can just go outside of all the mainstream outlets and come to a Black-owned place, or just a place that has more diversity, that has inclusion when it comes to Hispanic players or Black players or Asian players or Indian players. So that's our philosophy and our business model, and that's what we look to accomplish. And then someday, right, we're trying to manifest it. Maybe we can kind of go toe to toe with ESPN and all these major platforms. But that's the vision that I see for myself and the entirety of the company itself. And so that's what we're looking to do.
I love it. I love it. And it sounds like you had this vision, and it takes a lot to have a vision and then go out and execute it. How did you get started? Did you seek out like mentors? Did you do some digging on your own? Had you like had some experience in building? Like, I'm just thinking, if I'm someone that's going through college, maybe I'm an athlete that's thinking about what do I want to do next? Like, how did you get started, or how did you figure out that path to go down?
Actually, funny story, and I always date back to this. So I was 18 years old. True story. I was 18 years old. I had business cards, and I was walking in 90 degrees weather in Orlando, which is my hometown. And I used to walk from one block of downtown, which was in Pine Street, and I used to walk all the way towards past Orange and past Lake Eola. And I used to go door to door, basically B2B business. I used to go to business, and I used to be like, hey, I want to start this thing. I want to start this podcast, whatever, and stuff like that. Can you follow me? And it's kind of funny looking back at it, but those relationships that I built basically taught me a lesson, because it taught me who I am right now. So all of those barbers that I used to knock on their doors for, and all of those Fortune 500 companies, we have like a huge Morgan & Morgan building down there. I used to talk to some of the managers there, and so as we started expanding, we started getting like sponsorships with them. They started wanting to go out and events. They connected me with people that are in the same industry as I am, and then that's how you started getting connected and stuff. And so for me, my thing was that I just put myself out there, and if you're somebody that wants to start something, and you're somebody that has a goal in mind and you want to accomplish that, the first step is acknowledgement, and the first step is actually executing it. And so for me, that's the best advice I can tell anybody that's looking to either get in this industry or any industry, is just put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to fail, because it's inevitable. You're gonna fail, so you learn from those mistakes, and then you try to be better and grow from that, right? So, you don't go through things, you grow through things in life. And so that's the best advice that
Oh,
I
I
can.
like that. Yeah, that's amazing. I think, there's a lot to be said for planning, but I do feel like the more you take action and really actually, like you said, execute versus create the perfect plan, that's where you learn and that's where things happen. So kudos to you. Your sweat and hard work, going to all those people paid off in dividends. And like that's great advice to athletes is, hey, you got to put yourself out there. You got to try. You can't just wait for somebody to hand it to you. You got to go get it. And go ahead. No, were you gonna add?
No, I was just saying you have to. That's pretty much part of what we do. Like I'm pretty sure. I know your story with tackle what's next. You know, it's just one of those things where you have to be able to never be stationary, never be complacent. You have to be able to always perfect your craft. Like for me, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the person that I started in 2016 who I am now. Why? It's because it's countless hours, it's countless repetition, it's like school. You watch
Yeah.
these games, take notes, and then you try to come up with something that actually like is substantial, and then you start to deliver the message. So you always got to be able to perfect your craft. You can't ever think that like, okay, I've reached the pinnacle, let me stop. There's another another level of the apex that you can reach. So
Yeah, always have to keep learning. It's like a mindset you have to adopt, right? You're never done growing, you're never done learning. And I think that ties into the I don't want to say transition from sports, but just like that growth as a person. You talked a little bit about, kind of figuring out what this vision was for this company, but I'd love to hear from a personal side. As you're going into college and you're trying to figure out what do I want to do, how did you navigate, I am an athlete, but now I want to be in the media? Like, did you have any issues with, I guess, like, now what do I do? I'm not playing sports anymore, like you said, hit that growth spurt and was like, that's it. So there's some doors closing here. Did you struggle with that at all? And if so, is there anything you wish you would have done or that you did that was really helpful that maybe others can look at?
for me, I don't think that I would change anything. I think for me, the beauty is the journey, right? People always think about the end goal, and but I look at the journey, the struggles, like not being able to think like, oh my gosh, what I'm gonna do with my life? Like I'm gonna be a failure, I'm gonna be a bum. So for me, it's more so of just the journey is the real satisfaction, right? Being able to fail and get right back up, right? Being able to
Mm-hmm.
try something and then understand where you failed at and rectify the situation. So I think I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change anything that happened to me. There was a point where, I thought that I was going to be a detective. Growing up, I loved Law and Order, Detective Benson and all of that. So,
Yeah.
and reality hit and I was just like, oh, nah, I'm not trying to put myself in a position. And so, you alter your, your career path, and then you're like, okay, well, that didn't work out, and so you have to continue to find that niche that you're best at. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, the journey is really where the reward is. And because without that journey and without that, it wouldn't mold you to the person that you can be. And so that's that's where personally that's what it's done for me, and I think most people can say that for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point, and I think it's a lot of people focus on what you can get from where you're going, right? All the success, the outcomes, right? Here's what I'll get. Here's when I'll be happy. Here's what I'll receive. Here's what it will look like. But I love your emphasis on the journey because I think a lot of people love the idea of something until they see the journey that they have to go down or they start, and then they're like, I don't know if I want to do this, but it's part of it, right? There's no such thing as overnight success. It's all those days and days and days and days and days of work that you've put in to hit the overnight success. So I love that emphasis on the journey because I do feel like it's very much ties into the athlete experience. You train every day, you go to practice every day, you work hard, and that's when you can reach that next level. It's not you show up and you're certain height and weight, and they're like, "All right, go ahead, have a good time, go play in the NFL or the NBA." Right? No, you have to work for years, like 20 years. So I think it's really a great thing that athletes have this discipline, like you mentioned earlier, perseverance, and also the understanding that like I need to put the work in. The work has to happen to get to the results. So I love that emphasis on that for your life, and also just in the work you're doing. Like you said, you're still in that journey with Seby Podcast Media. Like you're still doing the same things and practicing those same principles. So I love that. Is there any other advice that you would share to an athlete that maybe doesn't know what they want to do after sports, or maybe they are kind of struggling to figure out what's next for me? Do you have any other pieces of advice that you would share with them?
Absolutely. So one of the main things that work for me is that internships. So internships is relationships is what gets you through the door, right? And so if you're like in college now and you're an athlete, you know, get to know the ADs, the athletic directors, get to know, as funny as it sounds, get to know the ball boys, get to know all the coaching staff players, because they're the ones that have the tools that can enhance you to propel you to the next step. For me, you know, internships with baseball, you know, baseball is not really um, when it comes to like budget or ratings wise, it's not like a big marquee sport. The marquee sport in American sports is basketball and football. But for me, that's how I started off with baseball, because at UCF, you know, I used to work with UCF athletics, and I used to be
Okay.
the baseball team and the baseball players. Then while I was working there, that's when I got connected with the Miami Marlins, and I got connected with their you know, director of sales. I got connected with some. So I think relationships when it comes to being an athlete is key. And if you can get yourself, you know, through the door through that and then work your way up, that's the best advice that I can give to somebody. Another tool I would say too is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a
Mm,
great tool. It's an entire hub of a lot of people that are in the same industry as you are, that are looking for opportunities. And so if you can collaborate with them, that's also a nice tool that's worked for me and to be where I'm at now. And so I always think UCF athletics, UCF basketball, because they give me the opportunity. And that's the best advice that I can give somebody that's in athletics now, that wants to be in this industry or any other industry, right? Whether you want to be,
mm-hmm.
you know, if you want to, you know, shadow somebody in clinicals, if you want to be a lawyer, you know, you want to shadow somebody during their cases. So being able to, you know, get a foot in the door and connect with like-minded people that in your industry, you know, there, it's priceless at that point.
Yeah, it's such great advice, and I think it's back to your execution, right? If you're interested in something, what can we do? How can we execute? How can we learn from folks in that realm? I love LinkedIn too. I think it's a great tool. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're 40 hours a week on LinkedIn, but like even 20, 30 minutes of sending messages, looking at folks' profiles, saying, "Hey, I really want to, study for this, or I want to prepare." You can really learn more about people and really grow in short bursts too, which is helpful for busy schedules, for folks like you or folks that are competing, in a D1 program or something. They may have a lot of commitments, but it's not necessarily something you need to do a full internship, but a shadow day. I love that idea of like, hey, let me just see what your day is like. So I really think that's a great piece of advice. And Seby, I also want to give you a chance to kind of talk to those of us tuning in about what's coming up for you, for the media network, anything exciting that you want folks to share, and any big upcoming plans for the new year.
Yeah, I see a lot of comments there, but um, one of the biggest things that we're looking to do, so I just relocated to a larger market. So one of the biggest things is getting connected with the area A. B, I've already planted the seeds with some management agencies here that have existing clients that are athletes. And so we're going to have more interviews coming up this year. We're also going to be
Great.
more venues. So we'll be doing, we hopefully we're looking to do more podcasts in venues this year. And also we got a nice little Black History thing coming up in February, but I don't want to
Awesome.
those are some
No
of the
spoilers. No
no
spoilers.
spoilers. Those are things to look
That's
out for the
awesome.
first 6 months of the year. So
Awesome. Well, Seby, as we close out here, let us know where can people find the YouTube channel, the podcast, how can they follow and engage with you? Give us all the details on where if folks want to connect with you, if they want to listen, if they want to tune in, where they could do it.
absolutely. You guys can find us in all streaming platforms, audio platforms. We're located in 18 different platforms worldwide. So that's Google Play, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher. I didn't even know that was a thing until I found that out. And then also, you guys can actually watch some of our interviews that we've already done. Guys like Manny
Mm-hmm.
Pat in Vegas. We've done people like Emmanuel Quickly. We've done athletes. We've done WNBA athletes because, we got to show love to the women's sports too. Um, Manager the Detroit Tigers. So all of those can be found on our YouTube page at Seby Podcast. But if you want to connect with us on a daily basis, we urge you guys to connect with us on our social media platforms on Twitter and on Instagram. That's where we get all the engagements. If I don't respond right away, I'll get to you. I have a management team
You
that
got a lot going on. Hey, you got to
got a
give
lot going
people give a chance,
on
give a couple days.
outside of other business ventures too that I have going on. So,
Yeah.
but that's just a way for our community to connect with us and to be able to engage with us. And that's actually my favorite thing, like being able to connect with, fans or followers. If they want to ask me questions, if they have, question about sports and stuff. So that's where that's one of my favorite things to do too. So, oh, and also
Amazing. Well,
our
I
website
go
as well.
ahead.
Our website as well. Sorry, www.sebypodcast.info. It entails everything that we've done there as well. So, and our merchandise.
Amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we'll link to all this. And I know if folks are here right now, you can go to Seby's profile right now here on Instagram and follow him to stay up to date with the platform and what they're doing. So that's another way to connect. But Seby, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining us, for tuning in, and chatting with us about your journey. I think it's so exciting to see what you've built, and I know it will continue to grow as the sports world changes and becomes even more intertwined with media and culture. I think it's going to be great to have your platform as a place for people to go and tune in. So we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us, and to everyone that's tuning in, please go follow Seby, go check out the podcast, go listen. It sounds like you'll have some new fans from this conversation here, Seby, hopefully. So yeah, looking forward to connecting and collaborating in the new year. So thanks again for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Right. And likewise, anybody on our followers, go follow Danielle. She's a breath of fresh air. She's doing some great things right now with Tackle What's Next. She's actually right now, she's working with JUCO athletes, retired ball players. And so I actually love what your work too. So the love is mutual on that aspect for sure.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Always love connecting, and let's do it again. Can't wait for the next time. And again, thanks for your time tonight. This was great.
You too. Likewise. Thank you.
All right. See you soon, Seby. Bye.